Kultureller Austausch fördert das gegenseitige Verständnis und trägt zur Verringerung von Konflikten bei.
I think it's the worst in German. There are words of like 100 letters. I think the Danish sounds like French now.
Tradition.
Tradition.
We have the potato, you have the hairballs.
Very universal language.
Hi!
Definitely the two of us.
We understand each other pretty well.
And I think I can understand German pretty well. You might be able to understand some Dutch, but it's a little harder, I think.
I have some Dutch friends. When they talk in their own language, it's like, I understand words, but like, so I can maybe guess what the sentence is about, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When I went there, sometimes I understood some random signs, which is really odd.
I also think like German has some similarities to Danish, or like the other way around perhaps, but I don't speak it myself, not very well.
Yeah, me neither. I don't speak any of your languages, I'm so sorry, but like, maybe I could understand.
Well, this will be embarrassing because I studied German for 4 years and I don't know. I think I forgot everything.
It's the same, right? I think you get German in school and so do we, so I think you definitely don't get Dutch.
I don't get it.
So I think a lot of Dutch people be able to understand some German. If you speak, then we can probably get most of what you're saying, unless you're speaking really fast and using slang.
I think for me, it's probably just like what's already in your language. If it's like similar to our words, then I would, but like we don't learn.
No.
For me, like Dutch sounds very like a mixture between German and English. Yeah. I always thought like that.
For me too. Like I also have friends from both of your countries, but I think I never heard them talk in their language, you know? Yeah, like we just speak in English, so I'm not sure if I ever heard your language, if I could distinguish them both, yeah.
I've always thought that Swedish is similar to Danish, but it just sounds way more melodic. It sounds prettier than Danish.
I like Danish, but it sounds very like, I think the famous saying is like potato in their throat. I would always say it sounds like Norwegian, like they're speaking Norwegian, but with a German intonation. That's what I think sometimes.
I agree. I think the Nordic languages sound a little bit like German, but more flowing, like what you said. It sounds a little more, I don't know if this is a nice way, but a little more funny.
Det finns tusentals språk och kulturer som samexisterar runt om i världen. Detta mångfald är ett bevis på mänsklighetens rika arv. Kulturellt utbyte främjar ömsesidig förståelse och hjälper till med att minska konflikter.
Er bestaan duizenden talen en culturen die over de hele wereld naast elkaar bestaan. Deze diversiteit is een belangrijk bewijs van het rijke erfgoed van de mensheid. Culturele uitwisseling bevordert wederzijds begrip en helpt conflicten te verminderen.
Auf der ganzen Welt existieren Tausende von Sprachen und Kulturen nebeneinander. Diese Vielfalt ist ein wichtiger Beweis für das reiche Erbe der Menschheit. Kultureller Austausch fördert das gegenseitige Verständnis und trägt zur Verringerung von Konflikten bei.
Der er tusindvis af sprog og kulturer, der sameksisterer rundt omkring i verden. Denne mangfoldighed er et vigtigt vidnesbyrd om menneskehedens rige arv. Kulturel udveksling fremmer gensidig forståelse og hjælper med at reducere konflikter.
Oh, I was surprised at how fast you guys were speaking.
Same for you.
Oh, really? I felt like I was hanging, so I was like...
Starting with Danish, for me, yeah, I understood most of it, but like always, I feel a slight whiplash when I hear Danish.
I think I never heard Danish, to be honest. For me, it sounds pretty, but it sounds like German, but like, you know, I used to have like the old cassette recorders, the VHCs, you know, when you turn them backwards to start the video. So it sounded to me like that, like German but backwards. It sounds like to me like German but backwards.
That's funny. I love that.
That to me is something. I was just like, that was so funny.
It's also because of how fast she speaks, I think.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised that I'm not able to understand more. There are certain words that look very familiar, like conflictors, like conflict, right? It's the same in Dutch and German, or reduced. But besides that, I wouldn't be able to tell the full meaning of this if I hadn't read it in my own language. Or German actually was pretty doable.
I think I understand like 80–90% of it.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
When I see the writing, it's easier, but when I just hear it, sometimes it's a little bit difficult.
So when I see it, like, and when I read it, I don't understand anything. I can only read like the culture part and the conflict part, but like besides that, I would not be able to guess anything, to be honest. Like I wouldn't know what the words would be.
I think context would also help a lot. Like the sentence itself is pretty difficult.
For Dutch, I was surprised at how much I understood, actually.
Oh, really?
There was a lot of words that like either through English or through German or through Swedish, I could somehow get it.
I mean, in Dutch, we borrow a lot of words from English, French and German. And then we have, of course, our own Dutch words. But I think there's quite a lot of words in this
But now when I read it, when I listen, I think, because when I read it now, I'm like, oh God, what does any of this mean? But
I actually have the complete opposite with your language. I also, when she was reading, I thought she's not even reading the full word, like she's skipping over letters. But I guess that's just how you pronounce certain things, right?
Like, we don't pronounce it the way it's written, which makes, I think, Danish one of like a very difficult language to learn. No, but I felt the exact same way. Like, when I read it, even Dutch, I'm like, okay, I think I can follow. But when I just listened, I think I was just so amazed by the sound of it that I kind of forgot to actually listen to what you were saying. I think it was so funny how it was similar, like you said, the mix of like German and English, but then there was the very like, I don't want to be offensive or anything, but like a very like you use the throat a lot, which made it really sound very interesting to me.
Yeah, a lot of people describe Dutch that way, like there's a hard G sound, but for Dutch people we think German sounds very even harder or like even more like strict.
But to be honest, when I reading it, like of course I would be terrible at reading it, but I think I could more than Danish. I would be able to understand at least the context of it, like what it would be about. Like just like seeing the writing of it, I think it's still harder, but like listening to it, I think that's even easier than actually reading it, to be honest, in the Dutch case. Probably because it has similar words.
Yeah, probably the pronunciation is somewhat similar instead of the Dutch way they changed the word into like how it fits us.
But I actually love the sound. I really like it.
You like it? It makes sense since you're German, right?
I guess we're the only one who doesn't have the throaty kind of thing here.
Yeah, that's why I think your language sounds more like it's flowing, right? Like French, like it's not similar to French, but as in the French language or Spanish language, it's always described as like a more romantic and flowing language, right? And I think Norwegian, Danish and Swedish sound more like that than English or German or Dutch.
It's funny when people also say that Danish sound like you have a potato in the mouth. We make weird sounds.
The more lower in Sweden you get, the more you kind of sound Danish. So like people from south of Sweden do speak with a little bit of like in the throat.
That I don't think we really hear that, do we? I don't think I'll be able to tell apart minor distinction between Danish and Swedish. When she's speaking, I definitely can't hear anything. When I read, I can see some words that I understand, but not much I can get from it. And I think it sounds very flowing.
Like I already said it, I think it's like I can read all of it, I understand all of it, and I just think it sounds like a much prettier version. It's so like...
I think I like the way Danish sounds because it's like happy somehow. It gives me like a happy feeling.
Maybe it's because you don't understand it fully, so there's like some mystery to it or something.
It's like when you start learning like English and you're making up your own language. It sounded familiar for me, probably because I learned it and because I heard it, but just like hearing and listening to it or like seeing it, I would not know what you're talking about. I would just be like, wow, that sounds cool, like is this a song?
I think I know why the words are so long in all of our languages. It's because we tend to push words together. So instead of it being one really long word, it's technically 2 words or 3 words pushed together. So then you have to separate them in your head, and then it's easier to understand the long word and not be afraid of it.
Like even when I write in English, sometimes I tend to put words together because they would be together in Danish. Like, so I think that's a good point. We really just jam it together.
I think it's the worst in German. There are words of like 100 letters because you can just add them all together.
I think there is no limit. Like people love to like just like stack everything together. I don't know why we do it. I don't know if we were just like lazy to like keep the space, but actually that sometimes makes it even harder to read it. Even feel like as I'm German myself, like if I have like a really long word, just like have a big whole word here, I would just put spaces in between to make it more clear what the word would be.
I also noticed that when I was reading it out, I rarely do that. Just like reading it is fine, but then when you have these long words, suddenly when you have to like read it and say it out, for some reason it was like, oh.
I feel you. I even stuttered a little bit while saying it.
In Danish it's kultur.
In German it's Kultur.
In Dutch it's Kultur.
In Swedish it's kultur. Oh yes, kultur in all of them.
Yeah, we just write it with a C, same as in English. But besides that, it's similar, right?
Yeah, just the accent is a little bit different, but like besides that, like, yeah, I would understand every one of you and guess what you mean,
Exactly, both the spelling and the pronunciation was I love the Dutch culture.
It kind of sounded French. I was like, wow.
Yeah, the part sounds a bit English. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's like German with English. Yeah.
It would make sense, I guess. I mean, Danish is also a very small country, but we are surrounded by German, English, and the French, so there's a lot of influence.
In Danish, we say tradition.
In German, we say tradition.
In Dutch, it's traditie.
In Swedish, it's tradition.
I think the Danish sounds like French now.
Tradition?
Tradition.
I would love that.
And you have a C in there for some reason.
That's the Swedish.
Yeah, you do that.
Tradition. I know. A lot of letters become sound in Swedish.
And it was funny how Dutch was, the ending was quite different.
Yeah.
All the others was schon.
One more time, how do you say it?
Traditie. I think you would still be able to understand it, right?
Yeah.
It would just be like, oh, that sounds different, but yeah, I would still probably understand.
In Danish, it's forståelse.
German, it's Verständnis.
In Dutch, it's begrip of begrijpen.
In Swedish, it's förståelse.
So that was where Dutch was like,
Very, very
We
different.
can say that in Swedish too, yeah.
it's just another word for it.
We also have like some synonyms, like verstaan looks more like these words, right? Means to understand, but it's more in a speaking. If you read it, you can say one of these words, like I understand what it says, but if you hear it, then you use verstaan.
How did you say this word?
Begrip.
Yeah, I would not know what it would, like if you would say the,
That.
to understand.
Right,
yeah,
verstehen.
Yeah, I
Right.
would understand that one, but
Yeah.
like Verständnis, like the understanding, I would probably not guess what it would be.
I could if I read it, but if you say it, I would not get it, I think.
And like with Swedish, the G was also, and now you do the gr.
I had an American friend who, when he heard me talk to my friends or family, would say it's like you're coughing up hairballs because you're also constantly doing the
As if you're a cat.
right, right.
We have the potato, you have the hairballs.
For us, it's like we call it like a wind because it's not supposed to vibrate in your throat. It's supposed to be.
Supposed to flow by or something.
In Danish, we say menneskehed.
In German, we say Menschheit.
In Dutch, we say mensheid.
In Swedish, we say mänsklighet.
I think ours are similar.
Yeah, ours. But once again, I think I would definitely also, based on the context, I would understand the Menschheit.
Yeah, I think also for me, like I would understand all the three in this case because it's pretty similar.
Definitely reading. I'm not sure if they said it. Can you say it again?
Menneskehed.
Mensgehold? Yeah, I would wonder what the second part means. The first part is overly human or mens, but
I guess the word itself is the same. It's the grammar that becomes different afterwards.
yeah.
In Danish, we say indsatser.
In German, we say Anstrengungen.
In Dutch, it's inspanningen.
In Swedish, it's ansträngningar. But I could say insatser in Swedish too. Actually, I think that makes more sense.
It's just the meaning might be a bit different.
It's just a slightly different synonym for it.
Jeg nedgrejer på lange ture i park. Det hjælper mig med at få udviklet selv og få et fast punkt. Nogle gange lytter jeg til musik, mens jeg går, og det gør oplevelsen længere bedre.
Genieße es, lange Spaziergänge im Park zu machen. Es hilft mir, meinen Kopf frei zu bekommen und frische Luft zu schnappen. Manchmal höre ich Musik während des Spazierganges und das macht das Erlebnis noch besser.
Ik geniet van lange wandelingen in het park. Het helpt me mijn hoofd leeg te maken en wat frisse lucht te krijgen. Soms luister ik naar muziek terwijl ik wandel. En dat maakt de ervaring nog beter.
Jag tycker om att gå på långa promenader i parken. Det hjälper till med att rensa tankarna och få lite frisk luft. Ibland lyssnar jag på musik medan jag går och det gör upplevelsen ännu bättre.
I didn't understand, I think, a lot, but like knowing what it was about, for me the words is just like the parking part, the frisk luft and the music part, so it's like not really a lot, yeah, like 20.
When she's speaking, maybe it's 5 or 10%, but if I read it now, I think I can understand like 50%. I don't know if I'll be able to put the full meaning of the text together, but in this text, a lot of words that are very similar to German, Dutch.
I would say 90-95%. It would be faster if I say what words I don't understand than what I do understand.
Very universal language for Western Europe.
Yeah, I love the double S thing you
Using
do.
LS?
Like we have double S, so it's really like double S, and this is more like sharp S.
For me, it really helps when I look at the text, but just speaking, maybe we're like around 40, 50. Reading, like I said, really helped, but there's definitely some words where I thought I was pretty good at German, but I'm questioning myself now. Let's say about 50, just to put it like pretty safe.
I think for me when she speaks, maybe it's 60 or 70. But now when I look at it, I think there's only one word, which I'm not sure what it means. Besides that, I know almost every word.
That's a lot.
I think listening, 40% too. But I feel like listening and reading is pretty same. It's just that I get more time to read, so then I can like really think about it. But one thing I'm realizing that I never noticed before is that how many words you're using the large letter in.
It's German. They have to put a capital for every, like the clock or animal or person or any subject, I guess.
Yeah, we have to write it in capital letter.
Does it change the meaning if you don't?
It doesn't change the meaning. They're just like, if we take a test, they're like, you're grammatically technically wrong, but like they would still understand what it is.
Before I was like, oh yeah, it's a mix with English and everything, but here I see very few words where I for sure get it. Like lange would be the same like long in Danish, lange, but I'm definitely on 20. With the help from the text, maybe around 20, 30.
I feel like reading is really harder than listening to it in that case. I mean, I understand the first sentence, like I would understand. Besides, like I would understand parts, like when reading it, but not a lot, maybe like 30%, 40%. But when I listen to it, I feel like I would understand way more, like 70, 80 in that case.
I agree with you. I understood more when I was hearing it than when I'm reading it. I think like if I read it for a very long time, yeah, I can see like how there's a lot of similarities just from knowing what the text is a little bit. But I think if I came in with more blank mind, I would have understood much less. Probably 20% when I'm reading, maybe 30 when I'm listening.
The way we spell and say things is weird, but when we pronounce it, it apparently makes it easier to understand, apparently.
If I would probably read it, it would sound so much more different than when actually like someone who knows the language would read it. But I feel like it's actually how you say it, how you read it, you pronounce it, I kind of feel like.
I understand everything. I don't need the text, but of course it's been the case with all of these. I think it helps and knowing the context. No, but it's 100% for me in this case.
It's similar to the Dutch one, like just like reading it, I'm not sure if I would understand anything further. Just like reading would be like 20% probably. And listening, I don't really remember the listening part. It was quite similar to the reading, so like not a lot.
Weird because for you guys, Swedish and Danish is so similar, but for me I think Swedish is harder to read actually. There's more things that I don't understand.
I think because it's further up, I guess. It's further away from German.
I do think German and Danish is like more similar. I do think so, yeah.
I think for me, when you were speaking, maybe like 10%. When I read it, maybe 20 to 30. There's quite some words that look somewhat similar, but also so many where I have no idea what it possibly could be. That's interesting.
In Danish, we would say at gå.
In German, we would say gehen, but like in the case of the thing we just read, it would be spazieren gehen.
In Dutch, it's lopen.
In Swedish, it would be att gå as well, but in this case, it was promenera. Another way to say to walk, basically.
Gehen is more like casual, to go somewhere, and laufen. Like as I imagine, like you can also say ich laufe jetzt zur Schule, I go to school. It would be, in my imagination, it would be a little bit more faster, fast-paced. Like not running, but like, yeah.
A more serious walk.
Yeah. In Danish is frisk.
In German it's frisch.
Dutch, it's vers.
In Swedish, it's frisk.
I love how Dutch kind of almost switched the E and R. Vers.
Right, we make the F and V and then ERS.
But still, I think I would understand like 3 cases in this one.
Yeah, me too.
In Danish, it's hjælp.
In German, it's helfen.
In Dutch, it's help.
In Swedish, it's hjälp.
Help?
Help, yeah.
See, it's so funny how there's some words that just totally sounds English.
Yeah, when people call for help, they say help. Just in a Dutch way, I guess. Dutch pronunciation.
Probably the origin of the word is same for all of us, but which language did it originate from?
Germanic, Old Germanic. Yeah.
I was actually personally surprised that obviously it was difficult for me, but Dutch, I thought it was totally different, but I actually understood more than I thought. So that was interesting. German, I already knew was kind of similar, so I wasn't surprised, but it sounds just cool. And Swedish, I mean, neighbors.
When like we compare the single words, I feel like it sounds way more familiar. Like when we read the like whole sentences and the whole paragraph, that's why I realized, because I kind of already thought like Dutch would be the easiest. I already knew that. Like I don't know about Swedish and this one, but like when I heard it, I thought it's probably a little bit more similar to Dutch. But then it was really different, yeah.
The German is pretty easy, I guess. We get it in school, so I was surprised that I couldn't understand as much Swedish because I did think it was very similar to Danish. And I was surprised that I understood as much Danish as I did, but then the languages apparently are, to us, non-Scandinavian speaking people, that they are quite different. So for Swedish it was quite hard compared to Danish.
I mean, for me, these days I'm used to hearing Danish because we talk together, so it doesn't feel strange or anything. It feels similar to how I thought about it before. I understand quite a lot, but not quite everything. And then for German and Dutch, I also thought I'd understand more than I did, but then I ended up understanding much less. But I feel like with Dutch, I usually understand really random Dutch, usually. So like I said, like road signs or something, like you can only park here until 3, and then I understand every word of that, but then I don't understand a simple sentence.
Today we compare 4 Germanic languages.
If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and comment down below.
See you next time.
Bye.